guys, welcome back to Cleats and Sneaks, a new weekly sports podcast with your host, Nicholas Neal.
I'm Grant Bishop.
I'm Zach Neal.
Ryan Cook.
And I'm Joshua Staples.
Today we're going to be talking about NBA scenarios, but before we start off, I wanted to thank everyone who's taken the time to listen to this podcast on Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube now. You can follow us on Twitter at Cleats Sneaks Pod. And be sure to visit our YouTube channel because we're going to start putting exclusive videos on there, more visual videos, in the next coming weeks. We're going to talk about NBA scenarios since you know what's going on in the world. NBA had to be suspended temporarily. So I'm going to toss it over to Grant. We're going to start the discussions today.
The preview of this episode will basically be about the awards that we think players should have won. So Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, Most Improved, DPOI, and MVP. Then we'll kind of get into our favorite plays of the season. We thought the most memorable moments. And then after that, we'll do teams that barely sneak into the playoffs, the 8 seeds, the 7 seeds, some of the lower teams that might have fought their way in there. Then finally, we'll wrap it up with like championship scenarios, like who we thought was going to make it all the way and what we thought the finals, which teams would be there. So I guess the best way to start off would be the awards. We'll do Rookie of the Year first. I had an unpopular pick, and I don't think it's Kentucky biased. I just think it wasn't a guy who was talked about enough. But I thought Tyler Hero dominated in Miami, and he didn't really get any talks throughout the whole season whenever the debates were going on. But I thought he destroyed it all season in Miami. Some really, really good games against some big teams. So I think he might have had a shot if seeing how the season would have panned out.
Speaking on Rookie of the Year, I think you could go with Ja Morant or you could go with Tyler Hero. I think the Miami Heat had two really strong candidates for Rookie of the Year in Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero. Both of those rookies were putting up numbers and they were helping that team win games in crunch time. But I think the popular pick is Ja Morant. And many people say Zion, even though he played, I think it was like around 35 games. I wouldn't even consider him in this just because of the amount of games he's played. But I think more leaning towards Ja Morant or Tyler Hero. Ja Morant helped put, I think he had, did he have one or two triple doubles in his rookie year?
I don't know. He was getting good numbers. I do know that Ja Morant didn't think Kendrick Nunn should have won Rookie of the Year. It was a funny tweet.
He discussed that on Twitter, yeah?
Yeah.
Through his shade.
I would have to probably go with the popular pick. I mean, I watched Ja Morant play in college. I got to see him in person when he came to Eastern Kentucky. He's electrifying. I think he's one of the most electrifying players I've ever witnessed in collegiate sports and going into professional sports.
I'm going to have to agree with Nick here. I really do think that John Morant deserved it, considering the fact that he wasn't considered a bench player, which Tyler Hero, to be fair, was, and he was putting up amazing numbers coming off the bench. But John Morant was the number one option. He went into that team being the number one option, and they were like, "This is our guy. We're going to build around." And I truly think that guy was undisputed, like the Rookie of the Year.
Anyone here help on that Zion Wade towards the end when he started?
If Zion had gotten healthier right before the All-Star break, I would have probably put him in there. But he just didn't get enough minutes or enough time. Interesting thing where we were talking about John Morant, he should be the 100% everybody's pick. He should be the Rookie of the Year. He played every game this year. Interesting enough, Kendrick Nunn has played in every game, and he has started every game, I believe, this season as well. So the numbers are there to where John Morant is just going to be edge him out a little bit because he's just got better stats. We're talking about a generational type of player in John Morant. And like Nick said, he's one of the most electrifying players you can see. But both of them are going to be two players that are going to be in the league for a long time. They're going to be making a lot of noise for their respective teams. But it's between John Morant and Kendrick Nunn for me. Those two guys have just been balling out all year.
I'm going to interrupt for just 1 second. I think I saw a tweet on Twitter, and I know this might ruffle some feathers, but I saw a tweet that said that John Morant is going to be what John Wall should have been. And, I mean, that's a good comparison, I think.
So my rookie of a year race, it was, I gotta say, pretty close. I mean, if you think about it, John Morant, he was incredible for the young Grizzlies group all year. If you look at the impact Zion Williamson had on the Pelicans, I mean, it's inexcusable. He was a monster. But I am the type of person who, since the season is concluded, I'm just looking at the facts, and I got to go with John Morant just because, I mean, if the season ended, which, I mean, it did end, and he had his team at the 8 seed, and I mean, if you can come in and if you can push your team over the edge to where they are a playoff team, I think that he deserves that award.
I don't know. I want to talk about what Nick said. I love John Wall. And I think John Wall, if John Morant ever gets to that level, then I think that he's had a very successful career. But that's going to be really hard to get. Did you say it was a tweet?
It was a tweet. It was a fan tweet. I'm gonna say that.
That's
It was just a really strong comparison. I think it's probably one of the most accurate comparisons. He plays like John Wall a
Yeah.
lot.
yeah. Well,
I don't really like when he gets compared to Westbrook.
I don't like
mean,
that either.
I don't think it's
Yeah,
fair.
no.
Like his Jaw's passing ability is insane. On top of that, like he is super athletic, which I guess that's where the explosive
I mean, that's
the
the same with
explosive
John Wall
athleticism.
though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm thinking that John Wall is more of a fair comparison of what he would
We
what you
forget
could
so
compare
much
him.
about John Wall just because he
The
hasn't
injuries
played.
just
I mean,
stacked up. Yeah.
No, I think John Wall's a fair comparison to him. I just don't like whenever they compare him to Russell, like because I am not a personally a Russell fan at
I
all.
hate when anyone gets compared to Russell Westbrook. I don't get how you can go out on a court and put those kind of stats up and draw any comparisons. I mean, that's just I get blown away every time I watch Russell Westbrook play. It's insane.
Well, I think if there is like one conclusion that we can draw about like this year's rookie class, it is that I could see like 6 or 7 of them being future all stars, maybe even a couple like future MVPs and like Zion and Jaw. You know, it's a really talented class this year.
It's very true. And what but going back to what you were saying about Ja being compared to John Wall and or Russell Westbrook, two very different situations. He's got more compared to John Wall than Russell Westbrook because Russell Westbrook was going on to a team that was young with some already established players, and I was on it. He comes into a team that was also very young, but there was not a that type of caliber player where we're like that guy on that team is he's gonna be an all star and given or MVP caliber type of player in the next couple of years, and they already had that in Kevin Durant with Russell Westbrook and OKC. So John Wall went into Washington and there was nothing. So he kind of just turned that team and put them on the spot.
And I think we're going to start off at Coach of the Year. So we're going to go back through, give our candidates for the award, and we're going to throw it over to Josh. All right, Josh, start us off.
So for Coach of the Year, I am pretty sure that Budenholzer won it last year for Milwaukee. And honestly, I was really close to giving it to him this year. I like throwing some bias here, but I think you got to give it to Nick Nurse and the Toronto Raptors, man. I mean, if you look at it, we lose Kawhi Leonard, and everybody is thinking that we're going to be like not the same team this year. Kyle Lowry is he's not going to be the same player, and a Nick Nurse, he just goes in and he takes control of that team, and he gets Spicy P playing at an MVP type level at the beginning of the season. If you look at it, we're the 2 seed going into the playoffs, so I have to give mine on to a Nick Nurse.
Yeah, I like Nick Nurse there. They did lose Kawhi, and I didn't think that they would have the season at all they were having, but they were killing it. They were like right behind the Bucks. I don't know how big the gap was, but they were the two. I didn't know if they'd even make the playoffs again. I really didn't, and sure enough, here they are. So maybe Nick Nurse should get some credit for Coach of the Year.
I'm definitely going to throw a little bit of bias here. I think that Nate McMillan definitely made a strong case as well this year, and the reason being is we didn't
That
have.
is some biased.
Okay, well, no, listen, we didn't have Victor Oladipo for majority of the year. We were also at one point the 3 seed when we didn't have our star player. We just had Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner, who also numbers wise had a declining year. And we lost all those pieces in this past offseason as well, with Darren Collison, a leader, and Thad Young as well. And we had to start with this young team. We It is biased. I think Nick Nurse is definitely a fair case, but I'm going to put my biased opinion out there about that, and I do think that Nate McMillan did make a very, very, very fair case to possibly just be in the conversation.
That's extremely fair.
That's a
Uh,
good pick. Yeah.
then in my mindset, when I'm looking at my coach of the year picks, um, Nick Nurse is on there for me. I didn't put McMillan on there. I didn't think about the struggle that the Pacers could have had without Oladipo, and they were still right in the thick of things. But I went ahead and picked two other coaches that I feel like that are very slept on for what they've done with the teams that they were given. Coach of the year pick would be Billy Donovan for the Oklahoma City Thunder for turning a team that was nobody thought they would have a chance in the West. They were just going to get blasted by every team that they play against, and they're the 5 seed in the West. That's impressive. I know they add Chris Paul, but they lose Russell Westbrook. And they go and they trade for a bunch of young guys. They trade away a lot of their team from last year and start building up picks. Like the Thunder are a team that are going to be pretty scary for the next couple years just because of how they handle things. And it's really impressive how they did that. And then I'm going to also go with Taylor Jenkins for Memphis for turning that team into a playoff team. I know that you give a lot of credit to John Morant, but man, like you just don't take rosters, especially in the West. It is not easy to turn a roster around in the West at all. And we're talking about the team who was in the conference finals last year, not going to even make the playoffs this year. That's crazy to me. Like that the West got that much better. It's just insane to think about how everything's turned out this year. But those are my two picks: Billy Donovan and Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah, a lot of good picks, good conversation for Coach of the Year. Nick's last to go. He's going to give his spot now.
I'll be pretty quick and concise with this pick. I think Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat. They pick up a Jimmy Butler in the offseason, and they were told that that was not enough to do anything. They pick up Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler only, I think, was the only big free agent that they signed. And then they go out and they get two really good rookies, and they turn stuff around. And they were in strong contention in the top 4 seeds of the Eastern Conference playoffs. But that's all I got for the Coach of the Years.
All right, we're going to go into the most improved player now.
This isn't Kentucky bias either, but I definitely think Bam Adebayo.
I can agree with
Oh
that.
my God, that man was
I
balling
can get
before
along
the
with that.
season ended, and I just seen it and I was like, dang, this guy like he looked like a young Dwight Howard.
He was killing it,
He was
man.
doing so well, man. I loved it.
He made the All-Star team and everything.
Yeah,
He was killing it.
he win the skills challenge?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was a big man for the win.
because it was him and Domantas Sabonis,
Yeah.
and he won it.
That was fun. That was a cool dunk contest. I loved that weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Oh man, I definitely got to go Adebayo as well. A part of me wanted to go Brandon Ingram, but I mean, if you look at the impact that Adebayo had, I don't think you can ignore that. So he's got my pick.
I'm gonna go against who you all mentioned just a second ago, Domantas Sabonis, who has really upped his numbers from last year. Really stepped into this like starting power forward role for the Pacers. Really started playing well. I'm throwing Luka in there as well. Luka Doncic has upped his numbers extremely well from last year to this year. And I've got Jalen Brown as well and Karis LeVert. I have 4 different players there that could compete with it. I have Bam Adebayo as well, but I just don't have them written down.
I agreed with the Bam Adebayo, so I think I gave my part on that too. So we don't really need to go too much more to that. Nick, who did you have?
I think I just had Bam. Everyone pretty had much said anything I wanted to say.
I hope he wins it. I really do. I love
A
Bam.
I think he
unanimous,
will.
a unanimous Cleats and Sneaks pick right there.
Yep, it's definitely got to be Bam because his numbers are just insane from year 2 to year 3.
How many triple doubles did he have this year? Because I
He
know he had quite a bit.
he was averaging, I think, a double-double.
Wasn't he in
But then he
contention
had like
for?
2 or
And he
3
was
triple
averaging
Yeah.
like 5 or
doubles.
6 assists as well.
Wasn't he in
Yeah.
contention for DPOY as well?
I don't know about defense. I think
Yes, he was.
He was a block leader
Uh huh.
almost.
I thought the three finalists for DPOI was the Corona starter, AD, and Giannis.
I mean, while Rudy Gobert, I mean, he did shut down the whole.
He shut down the whole league.
Shut down the whole
He put the
league,
whole league to
baby.
0.
I do believe that the three finalists were Anthony Davis, Giannis, and Bam Adebayo.
AD's always in it though.
And he needs
yeah.
to win it. That's a good segue into DPOI.
I was
And
about to say it's a good segue.
and I had
We're talking
Anthony
about these top
Davis.
three.
Exactly. Yeah, well, there we go. DPOY, I had Davis. I think the number speaks for himself. Anyone want to go off of that?
I'm gonna agree with Davis. If Kawhi didn't sit out as much as he did this year, he definitely would be in mine. I'm definitely gonna go with Davis with the amount of games that he played as well.
I mean, it's hard not to say Davis, so I think it's another consensual pick.
Yeah, I have Davis as my pick. Sleeper pick, and I don't think that I think this is very, very like not looked at. But if you look at what Andre Drummond has done this year, those numbers are good enough to win Defensive Player of the Year, undisputed, unanimous. He's just playing not for a really good team. But I look at Drummond and I look at Davis. I think you have to give it to Davis just because of where his team's at. But Drummond's right behind him. I think Drummond's two.
I gotta go Giannis. For me, it was a pretty close race between Giannis and AD. But like if you look at how Giannis can switch onto everything, and then he'll run the break for you and score. I mean, like if you look at his defensive rating numbers and all that stuff, and like his defensive plus minus, I gotta go with Giannis. Even though AD does have some great numbers this year.
Good conversation there. I can see all of those happening. From there, we can go into the MVP, the big award. I'm going to go LeBron James. I think he should have won. If the season would have continued and he would have been able to carry the workload, not necessarily the workload, but the level of play he was playing at throughout the entire season, I think he could have had a real shot at winning MVP.
To speak on MVP, I don't think there was just one pick for MVP this year, and it sucks that we didn't get to see the rest of the year, the league year being played out, because I think Giannis and LeBron were clashing for that MVP spot. I look at record wise, Giannis and the Bucks had a better record, but it is not all about records. LeBron is a huge part in the Lakers' success right now, so it's up in the air. But I guess I would have to just go with Giannis, give him his second MVP in a row.
I think it definitely was LeBron. And you want to talk about record, like yeah, that does play a big thing, and I would agree. But I think that there were some games that I think the Lakers just let a team have just because they strategically like planned it. They did. I don't think they wanted to see the Pelicans in playoffs. So I think they lost a couple games to teams that were just sneaking in to, and that was just
Like the Grizzlies one.
yeah,
week.
the Grizzlies, yeah.
Yeah.
And to make sure that those teams got in because they didn't want to see the Pelicans in playoffs. But no, I do think that LeBron because he played phenomenal this year. It was well last year he did play when he did play good, but I'm gonna agree with LeBron.
My MVP would probably go LeBron as well. West is the most competitive it's been in a long time. That was the big conversation was if you put LeBron in the West, you will see what his win total is and see if he dominates the West. You put LeBron in the West and he dominates the West. I know it's year two, and last year was a struggle, but he gets a little bit of help, just the smallest bit of help, and it really just turned himself around. It's kind of crazy. I got LeBron, and then my like sleeper pick for MVP would probably go James Harden because if you look at his numbers, it's just absolutely insane. 34.4 points per game, 7.4 assists, and like 6 rebounds per game, and that's also averaging 1 steal and like half a block. And he's shooting over, I think it was something of like 50%. Like I looked at his stats and I was like, oh, I got to put him in. There's no reason for me not to.
And so for me, who I wanted to win it is LeBron, but who I feel like they would have given it to is Giannis. So I guess I got to go Giannis because his team was probably going to win, I would say, over 65 games this year. He doesn't have as much help as LeBron does, in my opinion. If you look at PER and stuff like that, he was having like Wilt Chamberlain-esque season. So I got to go with Giannis.
A lot of awards that we would have loved to see give handed out, but none of them were. Well, they will be. Just we won't get to see if they deserve them, I guess, for a full season. Moving on from that, some memorable moments and favorite plays from the season. One comes to mind that I think we all need to just sit back and really think. Ben Simmons hit a 3-pointer this season. And if that isn't something
right.
we all need to just really applaud and congratulate him on, I don't know what is. You go, Ben Simmons. Good for you. You got a 3-pointer.
I also want to thank Ben Simmons for teaching us what social distancing was.
Oh, all his career he's been social distancing. We've been copying his flow word for word, bar for bar.
All defenders do is practice social distancing against him.
It's pretty easy.
My favorite moment this season, it's going to sound corny, was when all the Holiday brothers were playing on the same court at the same time. All three of them. It was the first time in history, and I thought it was pretty cool.
That's fair. My favorite moment this season would have to be, I think, Zion versus the Spurs. And I think it was his second or third game back where he had come into the game in the third quarter and scored like, what was it, 17 straight?
That was a pretty good moment. I
Yeah, it was unreal. It seemed like there was no rust. And, for all of the stories that we're talking about how Zion's going to have to start learning how to walk again, he just walks on the floor. He dropped 17, and he didn't even. They didn't want to pull him out. There was no way you could pull him out. He was playing the best.
How many threes did he hit straight? Like,
I don't know how
Two,
many. Maybe
I think
two.
2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many he actually had, but it was a couple in a row.
yeah, I was about to say he came out and was just lighting it up, man.
Speaking of another rookie, though, I got to go with Ja Morant's game-saving block on Kyrie Irving.
Oh yeah, that
I
was really
thought
That's a good
that
cool.
one.
was
Yeah, that's a good one.
that was a standout I am here moment for Ja Morant.
For me, I have two. I think the almost poster that John Morant had on Kevin Love.
I was just about to say that.
I think that's something that should be remembered.
He did that on two people this year. Did you
And
realize
he
that?
had a really crazy pass to Jaren Jackson Jr., but it was a missed
Oh,
layup.
the botch. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was crazy.
But my favorite moment from this past NBA season was the first game. I think it was the first game that LeBron got to play against Zion, and it brought the most competition I've seen out of LeBron since maybe the 3-1 finals. I think LeBron was going crazy, crazy. Like
He looked like playoff LeBron in
He
the
had to
regular
show
season,
his dominance, man. He had to show like you were a little boy to me. Like
and he did.
Oh, yeah, Zion throwing Kyle Kuzma around the court was pretty memorable, too.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Kyle Kuzma. I could throw Kyle Kuzma around the court.
Grant did not want them to trade.
I'm saying,
Grant wanted them to trade Kyle Kuzma. He
Yeah.
wanted that to happen.
I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast, but I like the Lakers. And whenever we were going through that horrible, horrible rough patch of the years of Dwayne Dedman and Carlos Boozer, we get to the end and we finally compile some picks and some value, and we make this big run at AD, and we leave Kuzma on the team. Of all the people, I would have liked us to keep Josh Hart instead of Kyle Kuzma.
Brandon Ingram.
We probably wouldn't have been able to keep Ingram or Lonzo, but we could have kept Hart and got rid of Kuzma. I don't like Kyle Kuzma. Up
Sneaking
next, we have 7, 8, 6 seeds maybe making it in the playoffs. Some teams that had a chance to kind of make their way in there. I can start that one off. I think that the Magic, I think they were right there at an 8 seed in the East at the end of the season. And I think they had a chance at making it. They would have been absolutely destroyed by the Bucks, but I think that, they're heading in the right direction. Orlando hasn't been really, I don't know, good. in years. I think Dwight Howard.
Since Dwight Howard.
Yeah, Dwight Howard was when they were really putting up numbers.
They
So,
drafted some good guys that played
and,
well for other teams.
and I think that it's finally starting to pay off. The picks they have now and the people they have playing now, it's finally starting to pay off. I mean, yeah, Nick has it here. They were the 8th seed, so
Yeah. I look at that Magic team and I say that I've been saying it for like the last 3 or 4 years. It's like Magic could be a team that's right on the bubble of the playoffs every year, and it seems like every year they're right on the bubble of the playoffs for the last 3 or 4 years. I know they made it for the first time in a long time last year, but I've been saying it for 3 years now that Magic could be a team that sneaks into the playoffs, losing the first round, of course, but you know.
I think another team that could have snuck in, like if like everything went right and for them, I think that maybe the Grizzlies could have fell out and the Trailblazers could have came back in. Depending because like I know Damian was hurt but I feel like they could have maybe scooped something together. It would have been a first round exit for sure, but if it'd have been something we could think about.
the Portland Trailblazers have the most money on the court of any other team in the NBA. They have the highest
Paid team.
yeah, they have the highest salary paid team than anyone else, and they were the 9th seed in the West. I just think that's worth mentioning.
That team was the Western Conference runner-up last year,
Yep.
and they're not making the playoffs this year. It's just crazy how competitive the West is.
The Warriors
how-
were favorites to win the championship last year, and they're not. They're going to be the worst team in the league.
Well, that's
Well,
what
they had a
happens to
whole lot of
injuries.
stuff happening there.
Yeah.
You can't do much there.
Yeah.
They're hurt. Rebuilding.
I don't think they're rebuilding more as wait till next year we get a high draft pick and we'll get back into it.
And they'll have
Okay.
Stephen Clay again.
Yeah, we'll have our MVP, our two-time MVP. like,
Josh, what do you got to
They'll
say?
have Stephen Clay and Andrew Wiggins at that.
Oh yeah.
Well, so like the East and West, who do we have in the conference finals, and who do we have winning, boys?
Conference finals in the West. I would love to see LA and LA. I don't know if it would happen. I don't know if the Clippers can make it that far. I really don't. They're still the Clippers. At the end of the day, they're still the Los Angeles Clippers. Until they prove that they are LA's team, I don't know if they ever make it. But I think it would be.
As of right now, though, I mean, if the Clippers make it out of the first round as of today, I mean, they would have to go up against either a Denver Nuggets team that I believe in or a Houston Rockets team that you never know what they can do.
That's also saying that the Clippers are beating the Mavericks in the first round, which the Mavericks are a team that can compete. They have star talent on offense on both sides. Like it's really tough in the West. It's really hard to
How
make
many
that scenario
dudes?
there.
how many dudes did Kawhi Leonard make cry last year? Let's talk about that. Like
Not really Kawhi.
We are counting Kawhi out. Like this guy single-handedly took a team to a championship and won it. A team that, like, honestly,
you-
we were unsure if it was going to happen because we didn't know if he even wanted to be there.
Do you
He
not
did-
think Luka Doncic can hold his own against Kawhi?
I mean, he has Paul George too, man.
I'm not saying the Clippers beat the Mavericks. I'm thinking they make that series go long enough to where Kawhi is forced to play more than a sweep. He might have to play 5, 6, 7 games. And in the first round, if you're doing that in the first round, it makes the playoffs drag on. And I think the Mavericks could do that.
And
And-
to speak on the Paul George thing, I don't think Paul George has been the same playoff player since prior to his injury. I think playoff P has been missing since the Miami Heat days. You look at and I don't have any bitter feelings to Paul George as a Pacers fan. I'm just saying, you look at the playoffs that he had, the only playoff appearance that he had after his injury. He didn't do so well. It looked like he gave up against LeBron when we played in Cleveland. It just didn't look good. And then he goes to Oklahoma City. He claims his alias as Playoff P, and then you get flamed by Joe Ingles. No, you don't give yourself an alias and then you get flamed by an Aussie.
Listen, but what I'm
In Aussie.
Like
listen. You're forgetting about the game, the series that he came back. That year that he came back, we played against the Raptors. We seen playoff P. We seen it. in that Raptors. It's difficult
Did
whenever
we
with
win that
that.
series though?
Let's talk about the team that he had around him. It wasn't the same. David West was gone. Lance Stevenson was gone. It was him and George Hill. And
Lance Stevenson.
it was him and George Hill and Roy Hibbert, who was a bum. We traded Roy Hibbert that year just so that way we can get Jordan Hill.
I just don't think Paul
Ugh.
George has the right to give himself a playoff alias. One, he got flamed by Joe Ingles. Two, the last 2 years he was a Pacer. He underperformed in the playoffs. So therefore, you're just Paul George. You don't get the name Playoff P. You're just Paul
I
George.
said Paul George. I didn't say playoff
You
team.
can trademark PG-13, but that's as far as we'll go on this podcast.
Fair analysis. Paul George, I think, has not made it out of the first round ever since his injury, and or maybe once.
No.
But that was in the East. For me, I'm gonna go. I have in the West, probably Clippers, Lakers, but I'm really high on the Mavericks right now.
It'd be interesting to see if they can push that far, but since they're so low, they're going to have to play the best of the best every round.
For me, I have the Lakers going out of the West into the finals.
I agree with that. Josh, what do you got?
I got the Lakers and a hard fought match against the Clippers. I got them winning in 7 games. If I can make the prediction, I have it being a very historic, a legendary performance for LeBron James, and I feel like it just adds on to his resume, and I think that they go on to the finals.
Yeah, I would like to see that. With all that being said, we're going to head over to the East. I'll start it off. I think it's the Bucks versus whoever, really. I don't think that whoever they play is going to beat them. I just think it's the Bucks. Maybe they play the Raptors, but even so, I don't think they'll lose a playoff game on that side. I think they're that good this season.
I think I
I also
think
have the Bucks and Raptors.
I think the Raptors will see the final of the not the finals, but
Eastern
the Eastern
Conference.
Conference Finals again this year. But they would definitely fall to the Bucks.
Speaking on everyone's picks for Eastern Conference Finals, mine's a little bit different. I do have the Bucks there, but I have them playing the Miami Heat. I think they really slept on. They go in, they beat a really talented Raptors team with Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry.
I think that the Heat could make it, but the guy that you're gonna have to depend on to get you to there is Jimmy Butler. He's gonna have to be the leader and the catalyst of that team. It has a lot of young talent. But if Jimmy Butler can arise to that occasion and be that guy, I think they can too. But that's who you're gonna have to
The
push
only
that team.
problem, the only problem that I have with that is, as of right now, the Heat is on the same half of the bracket as Milwaukee. So do you like have them dropping, or do you like have them rising to 3 over the
Over
Boston? Or
the Celtics.
Yeah, I have them
yeah,
going over the Celtics. I think the Celtics start declining a little bit in the later half of this second half of the season. I think because
okay.
they're only 2 games behind them with the stats right now. They're at 41 and 24. The Celtics at 43 and 21. I think that they go on a win streak to close out the season. They put themselves at the 3 seed. Celtics move down to the 4, and they put themselves on that side of the bracket to where that they can play the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. They won't see a finals appearance, but they will get there, and I think that's just good enough at the moment. Like, and they're their first year with Jimmy Butler. I think if they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals, they have something really good to build off of.
Good points
That's
there.
fair.
Yep.
I agree with Nick 100%. I
Yep.
think that the Heat make the run towards the end of the season. They jump the Celtics. They get on the right side of the bracket that they need to be on. And if you look at it, Miami is probably the deepest team besides maybe the Bucks and the Raptors and the whole entire East. So I agree 100% with Nick.
Yeah, I like everything that Nick said. This kind of leads to the last thing we're going to talk about in this episode of the What If NBA scenarios, the championship. All started off, I think the Lakers play Milwaukee, and 7 game series. LeBron and AD are too much for Giannis. I think they win it in 7, but I think it's a good series. I just don't know if Giannis can. I don't know if he can do it all. I think in
He
the
can't.
yeah, I don't know if he not
Mm,
against Davis and LeBron. So I have LA Lakers in 7 winning it all.
Like Grant stated, I'm gonna have Lakers versus Bucks. I think it's gonna be one of those back and forth series at first. I think it'll go to at least a game 6. Won't push it to 7. I think it's kind of hard not to say that LeBron won't get it done because you look at the Bucks team and it's just Giannis, and I think Giannis will get gassed. I think we saw that last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, or was it the Eastern Conference Finals? Yeah, against the Raptors, where he was just absolutely gassed in that series. So I think AD and LeBron they get LA that the illustrious NBA championship that he seeks to put an end on his legacy, and he can finally call himself the greatest player of all time.
All right, Zach, what do you got?
I have the Clippers versus the Bucks, and I think I'm the only one that said this, but I think it's Clips and 6. Reason being, like you guys said, Giannis can't do it by himself. Who's gonna guard if Giannis is guarding Paul George because Paul George is hot that night? Who's guarding Kawhi? Not Chris Middleton. Like I mean,
Right.
so it's just it'd be way too much for him to handle.
I think it goes full circle of any team that can make it against the Bucks. 'Cause Giannis will have to do it all through the playoffs and get to the finals, and then whoever, like you can even put the Rockets hypothetically. Even then, it's Harden and Westbrook. There's like so many different combos that can come out of the West that it just might overpower Giannis at the very end of the playoffs. With that being said, Ryan, what do you have for us?
uh, I think it comes down to Lakers Bucks, and just about with that, I'm agreeing with everybody with what they say. You have too much that the Giannis Antetokounmpo, that all hype beast that he is, that all the hype that he gets, it just is too much because LeBron and AD are two of the best players of their position, easily probably the two best players of their position in the NBA right now. And we're saying this is LeBron at what is he, 35, 36 years old,
36.
and yeah, he's playing against Giannis, and Giannis is like already been dubbed as the future of the NBA as it is, and he just can't keep up with LeBron. And LeBron and AD just absolutely. I think it's Lakers in 5 or 6 games. I don't think that they get to a 7 game series at all.
And to end it off, I have the Lakers winning over Milwaukee in 6 games. And it's not because of why you think, it's not because of LeBron and Anthony Davis. It's because of the players like Danny Green and Dwight Howard. I think that in a series like that, I think that they're going to make all the difference and give them the leverage that they need to win the NBA Finals.
Yeah, experience comes into play. That's a really good point.
I think that concludes this episode of Cleats and Sneaks. I think next episode we're going to cover NFL rumors and draft rumors. But one moment.
Before we sign off, I would just like to say thoughts and prayers to the Carl Anthony Towns and his family in this time. I'm sure we've heard the news that his mother did pass away to COVID-19. Thoughts and prayers to the family there in this time.
Absolutely. Prayers up to Cat, man.
Alrighty, well, that's all for us here at Cleats and Sneaks. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. Make sure you follow us on all social platforms on Twitter, YouTube, Anchor, Spotify. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Until next time, this is Nick Neal. I'll see you later.
See ya. Grant Bishop signing off.
Zach Neal, I'm out of here.
Ron Cook, peace out.
J Step out of here.